Hey, good evening, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital. This is the Thursday night strategy podcast for November 26, 2020. Happy Thanksgiving. So we've got a special one tonight. Ken has invited us to, I know. I was thinking about including a video, but that probably doesn't improve the podcast much, and takes up bandwidth I don't have. So Ken H was kind enough to share a trading experiment with us and asked me to think about it. So I asked him if I could think about it out loud in public. He said, sure, why not? Because he is brave and bold. And for that, we give thanks to him for sharing. There's the pen. Did that drop it? Oh, well, there's one. All right, so we're doing well, safe and healthy here. It helps me more than it helps you guys, I'm quite sure. But I appreciate you guys hanging in there and your courtesy. So Ken has been engaged in a recent experiment of day trading full-time. And let me point out, Ken, you're not trying to day trade full-time. You're in that time you were trading. You were day trading full-time. And I know you were trying, but you were also doing. And we'll see if we can come up with any questions. Everybody and anybody listening in, I would invite you to think about this through the eyes of a coach or a trusted other or Ken's accountability partner, a fellow trader with good intentions. And what kind of things come to your mind as you see them, as I see them for the first time, and as we're thinking about it out loud. And if you have thoughts that we don't get to, then by all means send them to me, and we'll get that added to the commentary, I suppose. Let me see if I can find the. I think that's the one. I thought I had opened this already in Docs. Yeah, why didn't that open? Is it that one? Ah, there it is. Okay, so I found it. Okay. All right, so Ken says, I wanted to explore what it would be like to day trade full-time for a living, so I took a few vacation days this week from the 23rd to the 25th of Thanksgiving to focus mainly on trading. The goal was to be professional and trade the full 6.5-hour sessions, including a few hours to plan, prepare, bookkeep, and after-action review. Yeah, that's your plan, prepare, execute, assess. That is good. Budgeting the whole day. The trading tool chest included the Tortoise techniques and ecosystem for entries and for managing trades. Okay, so we've got the full workshop set up. The market is in late summer with risk Z at approximately 2 SD with normal volatility and volume 20% less than the prior week as we enter the holiday season and the post-election shenanigans. The S&P was up 2% across the same 3 days, and so performance may vary during the other market types. So we have 3 full sessions. I would treat this as sort of like 1/10 of a full sample. So for a full sample, we would want 30 days. So this is 1/10 of that. So This would be a sample of a sample, and that makes this a good pilot test to get the initial indications. 10% is something. It's not everything, but it is a legit first start. And so now I'm noticing to take 193 trades in 3 days is about 67, 68 per day. That's like 10 an hour. If you're trading that, if we normalize that across the full 6.5. And so some of those are probably, I'm going to guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, are probably ads. So it's a series, and then you add a position. You're probably counting that as an additional entry. If my intuition is right, let me know in the comment section, Ken, if that's true. Yeah, okay, that's correct. First intuition, +1, hooray for me. So although that feels like a lot, just recognize that you could be in one trade and you might get that first, second, and third position quick, and exit, then a re-entry. So that would be 4 trades. That could be like in 3 or 4 minutes. So that's where those numbers start adding up. So maximum R was 6.7. Minimum was minus 1.6. Probably some slippage in there on a lower volume trade, or it might have been a span of control issue. 85 wins, 107 losses. That's a 44 to 55 ratio. The winning trade averaged 1.2, losing trades 0.69. So that's a pretty good ratio. That's almost 2 to 1. It's about 1.7 to 1. So that's sustainable. Standard deviation 1.35. Average win, therefore, 0.15. So that's kind of on the border of sustainable. The SQN of 1.58, the NSQN of 1.13. Yeah. So the NSQN is if you normalize that for 100, and so because there's more than 100 samples, it starts increasing the confidence of signal versus noise, that as you get a larger sample size, then when there is a favorable expectancy, your confidence in the robustness of that expectancy and your confidence that there is a genuine signal inside there rather than just a noise in the cyclic waves is increased. So 1.58 as the SQN, which includes, that's the square root of 193 is the multiple instead of square root of 100. So that what that's showing is that with that larger sample size, your confidence that there is a positive expectancy system is increased. And that's 1.58 is tradable. Okay, so the rolling R average, I should probably, I don't know if I can mark that up in Google Docs. Maybe. Oh yeah, I can see this. Hold on. I'll come back to it. Okay. So like any good test, it starts off immediately kicking you in the teeth. And then attention to detail, you get a first nice recovery. So when the recovery works, it's 2 to 1. That's favorable. On the negative one, so you gain 2, give back 1, but then stabilizes. I might almost look at this like that instead of, okay, yeah, that's the daily mark, I see. And so whatever that, this was probably the overreaction against that overreaction. And since this one came out of the belly, the pullback this was pretty good because you reduced the losses on the downside when you were exploiting the wins on the upside. That's good. I'm noticing only a few greater than 1 hour losses. And then a nice stable pull right here. Okay. Cumulative are basically scratch. So after a few, a bad start, even that didn't really crush. So that's the expectancy here. And nice gains from the opening session, afternoon, probably that late morning or lunch. And then an afternoon grind. Good. So just to notice that no matter how much we're going to beat you up or you're going to beat yourself up, $3 days. 30R. If we divide that by 5 to get execution, if that's expressed in execution R, then that's 6R across 3 days. So if we normalize that, if you're getting 2 position sizing R a day, and if our goal is 2 position sizing R per week, achievable, particularly with an SQN that is increasing as you get a larger sample size. So here's where I would draw the red line. So let me draw that as a red line. So we want to work on that. That's number 1. Number 2 is between, let's see. I'm looking for a normalish distribution through here. So we're going to get an average probably right around in here. That feels normal. Now this is taller. That's not unusual because all of the crap that would normally be out here, which would make this distribution looks like that, has all been collapsed and compressed into here. So as we get better on the winning rate, the size of this is going to go down, and then we want to at some point do some risk control to roll this over into that stack. So we will always want to kind of nudge things to the right. So I want to take this pile and move them into this stack, and then I want to move half of this stack and move it into this stack, and then I want to take half of that stack if I can and move it into here, and then half of this stack into here. So let this be one step at a time. Start at the left, and the first thing we got to do is control this risk, then reduce that risk, and then move that risk, and then smush that over into fractional wins. Move half the fractional wins into getting a second bite. So start at the left and start adjusting, but take care of the leaks first. Okay. And so on good days, you might have been tempted to stop here and stop there, and then you miss that. So we don't want to give back. We don't want to stop trading if we've got the will to do it and the fish are running. Quit when they're tired, not when you're tired. So don't get tired. So that's in pretty good shape right there. Let's see. Let's see if I can get this. If I can. No, that's the border color. What can I draw on this? I guess not. Okay. Sorry. I zeroed out the... 26 symbols. Probably too many symbols. Yeah, and you might want to be looking maybe at the correlations. Because like for instance, if I'm doing XLB and I have Alcoa, Nucor, U.S. Steel, and Cliff, what I'm looking for is the tendency, and then the best mover of that stack, and then maybe if like it's Alcoa, then I'm only trading one out of those 5 instead of trying to quickly take something. I would almost, once I've picked that target, I'd almost rather stay with that and work it when it's in the sequence instead of working on 5. Just pick the one that might help reduce that. If you adjusted all winners better than 2R to just 2R, then the total would drop from 29 to 3. So finding the key, finding the mover and exploiting. Exploit the winner. Let winners run. Pile on. Eat all of it. No waste. Small loss because you got one position on early at the critical state, and then increment as it proves that it's working, and that will keep getting you those bigger wins. Yeah. Symbols with 1 to 2 trades were just small experiments, like a dog chasing after squirrels on impulse. Yeah, I mean, if you don't chase squirrels, you'll never catch them. And squirrels can grow up to be, bigger squirrels and antelope and whatnot. So, and really, this is a sample of a sample. So I wouldn't beat Chip on that. Yeah. And if you just trade it, like for instance, Ken, I would just say, what if just jump to the end of this movie? And so, boys and girls, suppose you didn't change anything, and suppose that after 9 more samples of 3 days, if the numbers stayed exactly this way, and you were still dissatisfied in the same way, and you were knocking out 10 execution hour a day every day, could you live with that? Would that be so bad? Could you learn to go to work like that and just put up with it? Knowing that there's areas for improvement, but even already getting paid. Like, I would get rid of one word. Like, listen to how different this sounds if I get rid of the word just. Symbols with 1 or 2 trades were small experiments, like a dog chasing after squirrels. See how different that sounds than if I say symbols with 1 to 2 trades were just small experiments, like you're apologizing for the experiment. Well, I mean, how are we going to learn if we don't experiment? So it's not just an experiment, it's an experiment. And the experiment is to examine impulse. I almost feel like you're using that as in a negative connotation. Let me check my intuition. When you put the word just in there and then saying chasing a dog chasing a squirrel on impulse, my spider sense is that you're giving yourself a bit of a criticism. But if I change the emotional valence of that word and then adjust that sentence, if I say, listen to how this sounds if I say it value neutral. Symbols with 1 to 2 trades were small experiments like a dog chasing after squirrels. My dogs chase after squirrels, and occasionally they catch them. Lions chase after wildebeest and are only successful 1 out of 5 times. Were they just chasing wildebeest? Were they just a lion chasing a wildebeest on impulse? Or were they small experiments? And when you say small, I don't read that as trivial. I just say it was low risk. Let's change the word small to low risk. And let's acknowledge that the key word is experiment. Symbols with 1 to 2 trades were low risk experiments like a dog chasing after squirrels. Symbols with 1 to 2 trades were low-risk experiments like a dog chasing after squirrels. I'm just going to put a positive valence on that and say that's exactly right. When a dog is chasing a squirrel, isn't that low risk? Is that squirrel in a position to harm the dog ever? No. If he catches him, he eats a squirrel. And he's good for the day. If he doesn't catch the squirrel, what's the worst thing that can happen? He gets a little hungrier, gets a little quicker, gains some information about how that squirrel moves. And he has low risk. Symbols with 1 to 2 trades were low risk experiments like a dog chasing squirrels, like a lion chasing wildebeest. Now, if I make that squirrel a wildebeest, I could even have a pack of African hunting dogs, the wild dogs, so a carnivore. Symbols with 1 to 2 trades were low-risk experiments like a lion chasing wildebeest. Do you feel the difference in that, Ken? That's what I want to say about that. If you change the language of that just a little bit, that's almost like in your big stack of histograms and you had all those 1R losses, and we wanted to move a little bit of that over, and you had some of these little losses. If we just nudge that stack over, it's going to make a big difference on your expectancy. If we change one little word in the language, like get rid of the word just and small, and make just these tiny little nudges, it makes all the difference between a negative expectancy statement about your trading where you're kind of beating yourself up. And I'm saying, dude, you conducted a low risk experiment and right out the gate, you got 30R in 3 days in a volatile market that featured moves in both directions. Are you kidding me? And your worst trade was like minus 1.5 and the best one was plus 6.5. And your histogram looks like that. I'm going to just venture a guess and say how many folks listening to the sound of my voice would like to start there. I'm betting a significant number. So I want you to think about wording, phrasing, tone, intention. I was listening to the third ox herding picture tonight, and it's called Seeing the Ox. And it says of all the senses, eye, ear, tongue, body, nose, mind, if those are the 6 apertures, the ear, most powerful. So if we have these 6 apertures, and if the ox is the everything of the Buddha nature that's out there, that the activities that we engage in, eyes are engaged in the act of seeing, ears in the act of hearing, and so forth, that the totality of everything, all seeing is to see the ox, all hearing is to hear the ox. And in that moment of connection between yourself, subject, and the ox, which is the everything, object, when that connection is made and the reality hits, that's that moment of samadhi, when the subject-object duality is created into a unity and you get this powerful moment of awareness of oneness. So hearing, if they're right, they are for me as an auditory learner, when that connection, look at the difference in the sound of these things. So the self-talk is what you're hearing inside. So if you think about head, heart, gut, hands, and feet on your journey, this heart mind is the ox. It's discovering the heart mind, which is that deep connection to the ox, which is the everything. And if hearing is the most powerful, then the language that you're using and the sound of that in your head while you're trading is that first reaction. And that's almost the voice in your head, behind your head, whispering into your ear about what you're seeing. So if you're seeing things happening and the sound of that voice in your head is whispering in your ear while you're concentrating on the vision, that's why that sound is so powerful. It's not only the sound of the world, it's the sound of the internal sense maker that comes out of your root that is processing and then whispering in your ear. So when you make a small change in the language, that is a way to restory and reshape your reality through the use of language that you choose to use. And so the voice of the gut, which is worried all the time because its job is to see danger in the world outside. That's where a lot of that voice is whispering, while your head is looking for opportunities and your heart is wishing it to be so. Your gut is worrying about things, and then even when you're 30R in 3 days, it's whispering, hey, come on, dude. And so the language that is used to report on the sense making is sort of an integration of all of those things. So what I'm giving you is a technique to use with your hands to rework the story that comes out of your gut into your head. So it's not just a small experiment. It is, in fact, a low-risk experiment. That's exactly what you want. To say it's just a small experiment is to negate the importance of what you're doing. It would have been bet. What if it was a large all-in bet? That's gambling. You're not gambling. You are conducting low-risk experiments. And the reason it's low risk is because you're a predator chasing a target that can't hurt you if you just don't lose your mind. And you're learning something more about those targets. And so if we refine that, I don't know if it was too many symbols. If the ones that weren't working were pruned, then that's fine. I'd actually like to have enough to choose from to winnow it down to 2 or 3 in order to come up with the great white will. Maybe I just have to accept the fact that I'm attacking a herd in order to find the 2 or 3 that really are going to do all the work, and then the one kill to feed the tribe. If that means that most of them get away, That just means the herd is going to continue to grow and go. And the other ones weren't ripe yet. They weren't big and fat and delicious yet. They were still lean and mean and hungry. So let them feel successful until they fatten up, until we get the one that we want. Think about that like a predator. I wasn't able to work the Tesla trades well compared to Ken's. Need to study some more. Yes. You know how I've been chasing Tesla like a dog chasing a squirrel. And starting to get my arms around it now. When I first started looking at it, I was rejecting it because I let my... if you go back and listen to what I was talking about Tesla and Musk, my emotional dissatisfaction with him was in the way of me being able to trade it properly until I adopted a more professional tone and just let him be who he was. Once I detected the deep order that was in his mind and penetrated his vision for the future. So not so much a huckster as a playing the deep game. And then I was able to, instead of just chasing the squirrel or disrespecting, I was able to actually trade it sensibly. So then I've been able to trade it from 380 to 500 once, and then from 380 to, what is it now, 575 again on short timed swings, leveraged with intraday stuff. So study. So in the ox herding pictures, the first one is searching for the ox, and then it's tracking the ox because you start seeing signs. And seeing signs means that you're studying the surroundings and looking at the marks that it leaves. And that's studying the tracks of the ox, and then the more you stay with that practice, the third one is seeing the ox finally, when you're able to make that connection. And now you actually see the guy making the moves. Later tonight, I'll go listen to the fourth one, which is catching the ox. And then later there's training the ox. And the ox is nothing more. It's everything, but it's simply the heart mind. Objectives and happiness. I realize I didn't define my objectives and scope clearly up front. Defaulted to trying to capture as many big movers as possible, to capture the ox and maximize my results. But there's a cost to this. Well, sure there is. There's a cost to everything. Maybe what you defined was clear enough. Could it have been clear enough? Capture as many big movers as possible. How can you feed the tribe the best? By capturing as many big movers as possible. That seems reasonable. Maximizing my results. But there is a cost to this, so maybe maximizing the value of my results. So there's like a cost-benefit analysis, a reward to risk, and a net cost, or a net reward, I should say. So maybe you need to say maximizing my net. I could live with that. You know, if we're going to iterate towards our trades, iterate towards your objectives. To me, you learn what are reasonable objectives as you aim high and find out what you have and then adjust, as opposed to saying, well, I'm not going to trade until I really precisely define my objective. Just trade. You kind of know what it is you want. The words will come as you refine your craft. Don't let that get in the way of trading. And there better be something in there about risk managed, low risk, and experiments. Live to fight another day. Don't get gouged by the ox. Monitoring, stalking, and not wanting to miss a mover prove difficult and mentally wearing. So those are 3 activities. All right. And I want to talk about each one. Which of these 3 things individually must be done? Well, I think you have to monitor, because if I've got all these things in the stack and I'm trying to pick a couple that are postured in a critical state ready to move, well, clearly I've got to monitor in order to see the ones that are in a critical state as each of them goes through their little sine wave, and you've decided maybe this is my sweet spot. So I've got to monitor the individual ones and see where each one is inside that little wiggle. So I've got to monitor. And then when you've identified one that's entering the kill zone, stalking you've got to do so that you can time this just right, so you can find the turning point and you can see that turning point. And if this little wave is really this, when you zoom in on it, now you're realizing the fractal nature of that. So there's like 1, 2, and 3. So stalking. And now, not wanting to miss a mover. Is that an activity or a feeling? That's an action. And I can define that efficiently. And stalking is an action. And I can define that specifically, and I can grade myself on that. See where I'm heading with this? Not wanting to miss a mover is a feeling. So what? What does that feeling do for you? What's it cost you? If I can be efficient in monitoring and stalking, because I know how to be efficient, I just got to look. And I have in my glasses is a little template or a lens, and it is or it isn't. That's not costly. But sitting here worrying about the one that got away, oh, what if one of these, maybe I'm focusing on 2 things that are coming into the zone, and when I'm doing that, I can't also monitor all those other ones because I've chosen my targets because they were the best thing at the time. And maybe this thing goes up, makes its move, and comes back, and I look later and say, oh, I missed that one. Yeah. But what about the ones you were focusing on? Did you trade them properly after you made the decision to stalk and enter? And if so, well, then that other people got to eat too. So one of the things, it's what part of this was difficult? If it was difficult to do that action, it may just be that that's an action that's difficult. So we got to build up either muscles or endurance or both, or eliminate the non-value add, or make that easier to do, or automate or standardize and simplify in order to reduce the difficulty or build up our strength. And the same thing with stalking. The thing that improves the stalking is going to improve, or the monitoring is going to improve the stalking, and that's just your dashboard in your target monitoring and alert system. That's actually easy. And if you can get in some kind of a Zen state where you're just sitting quietly doing nothing but listening, that's what if you were fishing and this bobber is here and you got this thing on your hook, and then the little fishy comes along and he bites and goes, and then the bobber gets pulled under, and that sends a trigger up to you and wakes you up. Alert. So you can be sitting in restful contemplation about the meaning of life while you're fishing. And if you've got 10 hooks in there and waiting for the one. Which one is going to be the one that goes first? Okay. How difficult and mentally wearing is it to bait your hook, drop it in, and then go to a light sleep? And then wait for the alert. Having to switch between a couple of tabs of 12 to 16 charts each. So that's an issue. I'm thinking I have a stack, and then I have one screen of 6. I'm expanding that to 9. And everything's on there. One screen, not flipping between tabs. So maybe simplifying the dashboard. I understand now I need to learn to be content. I understand now I need to be content. I need to be content. I am content. Content. That's all. That fast. All the time. Content. Think of that fisherman. Boy, if there was one word, content. I didn't even realize you were. I didn't even look far enough ahead to say the fish. Check that out, man. So the 10 poles, a scale. Oh, man. I wish I'd have read ahead, then I would. But that's kind of amazing. Those words are right in front of me, and I didn't even see it till I read that far. Managing emotions. Are you going to manage them, Ken? I want you to go listen to the on YouTube, the Shaolin monk talking about the 5 hindrances. And he says, let it rain. He talks about the 5 hindrances are states of mind that stop you on the journey up to Mount Clarity. And so each of those 5 stages, in every case, there's an emotional element, and it just says, let it rain. First thing, recognize that it's there. Accept, acknowledge, and allow. That's the A, that it just is what it is. And then I is inquire. Investigate, same thing. What is it? What are the details of it, just so that you can understand it, this thing that you're going to just let it be. And then non-identification. That's not me. And he says, I am not my body. I am not my body. I am not my mind. I am not my emotions. I am this guy in the middle who is content and balanced and on my way to that clarity. So managing the emotions in the sense of not managing the emotions. Just let them be. Let it rain. Recognize the emotion, accept it, acknowledge it, allow it to be what it is, investigate it so you can be fully aware of that thing that you're not going to manage. And then just non-identification, just remember, when I'm fishing, I'm not my mind, I'm not my body, I'm not my emotions, and those things can go be what they are, and you can just be what you are, which is content. So stay focused on the process and execution, being in the moment. So let the bricks be what they are, or the fish what they are. If I'm a brick maker, because that's actually hard work, in the moment of the trade, I'm in here making bricks. There's my little guy walking along. And as I make a brick, I just throw it over my shoulder. Some other part of me is going to stack them up and put them on the pallets, and the accountant's going to take care of that. But that's back there. Just throw the brick back there. So when you're catching fish, just throw them back there. Your assistant will is going to put them in the little bucket. And you just concentrate on the fishing. Being overly conscious of the results is a bad decision. It's not helping you monitor or stalk, or it might actually make you want to not miss a mover. So combine those two things together. You're going to not worry about missing a mover, and you're going to not worry about the ones that you got. So don't worry about either one of those. And that one's a positive and one's a negative, so the resulting is a zero valence. So you'll get done with that, right? Trailing. When I was in my paper brokerage account, I didn't have any problems trailing with the Bollinger Band Manager or Wu Wei, but now with real money, I find it difficult to do so and have gravitated to using tighter trails, PSAR, Belly of the Dragon, and or Next Bar Trail. Yeah. When you have skin in the game, it's different. And that's exactly the issue, if I may say it this way, I think. Head, heart, gut, hands, and feet. That when you're paper trading, you're in your head and hands, and your heart is happy because you can see all that. And your gut is not worried because he knows you're paper trading. And as soon as you start with skin in the game, this guy wakes up and says, look at all the risks out there and all that other stuff, and he gets activated. And so if you're paper trading without that sense of worry and fear, then you are actually not practicing the way that you're going to work. And all the lessons that you're learning with your hands and your feet are unrealistic because you haven't activated the gut. And that's why I think you have to have skin in the game at a pilot program level in order to duplicate the conditions of trading to see if you can actually execute that with skin in the game. Because in your head, you said, oh yeah, the Wu Wei exit. Wu Wei exit, that's this, Notice this, that's Wu Wei. That's the symbol, Wu Wei. Effortless action. But then as soon as you bring at the cutting edge of change, that emotional guy comes online and makes you change your practice. So one of the ways you can do that is, I guess, trade one share until you can feel competent with your hands, or go to paper trading with this new adjustment of rules that you've developed, and then paper trade that so your head gets really satisfied that you've codified the rules. And then your stomach will be content because the head is now finally working on something that the gut believes is important. And so that's the science project in there is, I think at some point you want to be satisfied in your head that you've got the same clear definition of your modified rule set that is now risk informed. And it may simply be that you've got to go with a smaller XR or smaller, not XR, but the smaller dollars per trade at risk so that you're comfortable with the Wu Wei, or adjust the rule set so that when you add scale and size that your stomach will be accustomed to it. But in either case, you've got to practice it with your hands so that you can have the confidence in your gut that you've put in the work and the practice and got the battle drill down. Some common causes of later entries and hesitating on some signals. Observing the Z3 line start to compress, you project that it's entering a SQC and that therefore you should wait for the breakout. It takes a long while for that Z3 pinch breakout to occur. So when those jaws look like this, it is miles to go before this thing has gotten to the point where it's a Z3 pinch. So this is just the end of the first pause of 1, 2, 3. And it's miles to go before the choke point. And this is much more likely to look like that and then a re-entry as opposed to waiting for the Z3. Because this could just be leg 1 on the next higher fractal, leg 2. And until this thing gets back to the Bollinger Band River, it's still this. So know where you are inside the fractal frame. So this is leg 1, 2, and 3 of leg 1. This is leg 1, 2, and 3 of leg 2. This is 1, 2, and 3 of leg 3. And that's leg 1. So if that's 1 minute bars, and if that's 3 minute bars, that might just be a 10-minute bar. So where are you in time and space inside the larger 9 innings? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Where are you in the larger frame of two time frames higher? And if that's day, week, and month, so be it. If that's hour, day, and week, so be it. If that's 10-minute, 30-minute, 2 hour, so be it. But there's always those 3 layers of time frame going on, which is why we have the 10 and the 30, the 30 and the 90, and then the 90 and the 270 gives us those 3 different pairs. After seeing that I missed an entry and seeing the trend continue to move, so it actually doesn't even matter if you were in or not, because that thing is in its life cycle somewhere. So just recognizing where we are in that pattern, patience, and remember that little fisherman, content. That is really a powerful word for you. Patience is one of the features of the feeling of content. So that image of contentment for you, and the feeling of contentment, and the sound of contentment, and the smell of contentment, and the concept of contentment, what are those? Well, those are the 6 apertures: mind, eyes, ears, tongue, body, eyes, ears, tongue. 1, 2, 3. I'm missing one. Nose. Each one of those has some element in the definition of contentment for you. So figure out what those are. So you really know exactly what you mean by contentment. There should already be a little image in your mind. I see the fisherman by the pond and all his little poles in there. Beautiful day, just enough sun, maybe a tree to give you some shade on a nice little pleasant bank, little dog sitting by you, a little basket of to carry your fish, little lunch that you brought so you're not too hungry and then get agitated. Beverage of choice. Another friend over here is also fishing on his part of the pond. Plenty of fish. So there's some element of contentment that's all in there, and that's a place of patience for you to find it and use it immediately. Take a sip of that. So turn all of that into a little ritual of a beverage and a sound, and ring a gong and drink some tea, and you are instantly in that moment of patience. You should be rehearsing that one. And get there with 2 deep breaths, or even 1. Rub your hands, rest. There you are, you're already set. Knowing when to stop or take a break after a mistake, after a bad loss or trade. I would also say after no mistake and after a really good trade. Get into the zero state. No revenge trading. Life is too short. Let it go. Rain. Say it with me. Recognize. Accept, acknowledge, allow, investigate. Non-identity. I am not my body, my mind, and my emotions. Just let it rain. Contentment and breathing, and you're good to go. Need to figure out how to forgive and feel gratitude throughout the day. Let the other ones go. Empty your hands. Empty hand fishing. Empty hands fishing. You can't hold your fishing pole if your hands are full. You can't catch the fish with your hands if your hands are full. Empty your hands. Rub them together. Take a deep breath. And now you are in the zero state. So you don't need to figure out how to blend and to do it throughout the day. And just, no. Empty your hands. Go fishing. That's all. Do that. Managing expectations. Okay. Your expectations, where do you think those are coming from? It's either coming from data or it's coming from emotions. And we already know what to do with emotions. Rain. Don't make me say that again. And so your data is going to drive your expectations. Your data is going to drive not even expectations. If you just got rid of expectations and just concentrated on good process, then the data would reflect what happens when you are content and concentrating on process. And then the data will tell you what to do from there. Okay. So emotionally wearing out when the price continually retraces to hit the Bollinger Band mean. So when it just keeps doing what it is supposed to do all the time, it's wearing you out emotionally. So that's not the price doing that to you. That's what emotions and expectations are doing. It's not the price retracing. It's your reaction to it. So you got to not be your emotions and expectations. Let your expectations, which is the front end of this thing. So if I was looking at it this way and I had expectations on this side, and then I had some result R, and then I had my emotional feelings about it on this side, if I just concentrate on the R and just let those two things, that positive and negative valence, or the negative and let those two things go off into the sunset and just dissipate like heat waves on a hot day, shimmering in the distance. The land of emotions and expectations is over there. And I'm just fishing over here. That's all. Just fish. And let the data make the adjustments And that's where your study is. The data will show you what to study and what to make adjustments on. March was an abnormal market. It was just the market in March, and it was normal in the moment. And we know how to calibrate that because we have data. We know, so that was normal then. This is normal now. So this is not then, this is now. So let this be what it is. And since these patterns are all fractal and you normalize them based on the relative volatility, the patterns are the same. The size of the moves are different. So what? You already know how to manage that. Hit singles. You kind of like, how many fish can bite a hook at one time anyway? One, right? Just hitting singles. Again, get rid of that word just. Hit singles. A 300 hitter is Hall of Fame. Hit singles. Catch fish. Content and patience. Time of day. Yep. Go listen to that video on the way I'm organizing the time of day. 30-minute chunks. 3 30-minute chunks at lunch. That's the opening. It's crazy. Here's the morning session of 2 hours of 4 30-minute segments, a 90-minute lunch. Four afternoon segments of 30 minutes, and then a final there, and there might be something that emerges out of lunch where it's really quiet and nobody can win. I love that time of day. Catch a fish with the smallest bait that you can. That's your initial risk. Bait. I'm not sure what the word bait means yet, but I think it be as or be an interesting treat or a taste. Bait your hook with the smallest amount that makes a fish want to come bite it, and then we'll see if we can reel him in. I don't know how big the fish is going to be when he bites. I just know that he bit. So if I can be an interesting taste. He bites it and grabs it, and we'll see what I catch. And then if the fish, as long as the fish is bigger than your bait, that's good. So the MMRB is everything. Most entries win less than half of the time, except for the SSC. So SSC, number 1. I want to place a small point of emphasis on SSC. That's the one. Total R, SSC. And when it fails, the second entry is the SFC. So when you get an SSC and it just keeps going, the re-entry is the SFC. Or it's the failure on the downside, which leads to an SWC. That's chain trading right there. And then the hybrid frog is simply how you get started in the morning until the point where you see SSCs develop. But this is the one. So you can defer this until you get this nailed. That's why this is kata number 1. And SFC kata number 2, because SFC can actually work in both directions. It's this, where this is fall, and it doesn't get to winter till down here. Or it's this, and that's an SFC when it's to the upside. And this is an SFC to the downside, but both of them started with the SC. Dude, right there. Right there. Because it's already in play. It already had the significant move for the harsh winter. And now everything is hungry because it's the spring. And it's either a fall spring and it's going to fail, or it's a really spring and it's going to become summer someday. And when it goes spring and summer, that's the SSC and the SFC to the upside. Big win. If it's a spring and it fails and now it's fall and winter, big win to the downside. That's where those R's are coming from. So do that. And the win rates on that were excellent. You know, go fish for your preferred target. Yeah, breakouts, sometimes they just start going for no other reason. That's the alert. That's the monitor and alert system. Balance. This is accounting, keeping the core separate. I think you can keep swing and daily, those shorter term ones, in a single account. That's practical. But keeping the long term accounts separate, to me, feels essential. I just dropped my pen. Where did it go? Oh, there he is. So that seems to me to be essential. There's life outside of trading and time management, and there's also life inside it. And that's actually, if you take a look at this balance, that's also telling you here, by the way. So if you think about the great big wide world, and you think about your prep room that you enter, and there's your trading, the trading room, the battle circle. Here's your dojo, and there's the world. The one thing that is common in all those areas is that there's life in here and there's life out there. And there's pathways in between and boundaries, but strong connections, balance. It's lonely. And that's why, you know, on that path up to the mountain where we have our nice little river, and we have our little homely house, and the nice tree of shade over in here, and we have our barn full of tools. We have a little nice rest and relaxation area here for storytelling and fire pit, and a workout area for the trading dojo, and then a place where we're growing crops with our long term. And we have over here a little village with other fellow travelers, and we have a bridge over the little river, so we have a little bit of standoff room so we can do what we do. Yeah, that's we are social animals, and that's why we have a place where we can get together and talk. And finding integration and all those things. And communicating the joy and sorrow of all this stuff. And shared stories. Yep. Community of practice. Manual data and entry takes quite a bit of time. Simplify it. Use chips. But this is also part of the enjoying the workspace and finding the ox in all of the little things too, and cultivating patience and joy in attention to detail and learning to appreciate those little things. Blend it during the day. And one of the things that I just think at some point you're going to get to, it wouldn't surprise me if you get to this place. When you are really investigating and really drilling down and studying, and then you see, here was the move, and then here's the dragon, and here's the little dot, and it's with precision, and that is exactly 0.37. And the next time it's 0.39, and the time after that it's 0.22, and the next time it's 0.17, and on average it's 0.35 at some point, or 0.4 or something like that. It's 1,000 shares with a 40-cent risk down here. But if the actual trigger was here, and it turns out that I only am a full one execution hour is only 25 cents, but my real execution hour is 40 cents, and my position sizing hour is, or my potential gain is $2. As long as, if I have a 40-cent standard, and I can see a $2 gain is up there like an R stat. Just for me, 1,000 shares. Oh, half that because of reasons? Okay, 500. Because I'm already halfway through the move, and I wish I'd gotten this, but now I'm on that second position, and I'm worried because now I've only got leg 3 to contend with, or whatever. There's only 2 and 3, so a half. Okay, a hat tip. I'll do it with half. Okay. So you end up at some point, standard size on standard size, standard target. This is going to lead you to a place of contentment and ease, which you earn because you did the work to get there. That's doing the work earns you the content and ease and familiarity, and lets you make simplifications that are earned. What I do when I want to convert a turbo to a core in any time frame, I just sell the residual, or I sell the rest and keep the residual and keep it as a core. That's why if I keep the day and the swing in the same account, I can kind of roll that into it. But I find that the swing and the core needs to be its own separate thing, because a lot of times that may be in a different kind of an account. And it may be that when I'm rolling it from swing into the core, it may be that I don't have that same exact equivalent target. And I just might say, what I should be owning in the core are the things that are timed for the core. Like maybe it's the small caps. So maybe I earned it with Tesla because of reasons. And now it's time to turn that into a core position. Maybe I've got an account where I can buy some long-term Tesla. Okay. Or maybe I just say, let me buy the equivalent of DIA. Let me just buy DIA and just roll that into there and just say that was completely paid for with markets money. 100% of it was earned with markets money. And I'll just take that simplification, or the S&P 500, whatever it might be, or whatever that broad allocation of the core portfolio might be. And there's a certain simplification and transition to that. But because that's got a 200-year time horizon on it, it almost doesn't. You almost want that big, fat, broad index. That's your Rip Van Winkle positions anyway. Yeah. That's what I would give that some thought. That's a good problem to have. The rest was data. So if you're listening to the sound of my voice, and we're about an hour and 20 minutes into this, and so now what I asked Ken to do was, well, what would you ask Ken to do for his action plan? Now it's like, okay, so what? There are a lot of little things that he's got to go through, and he sent me an action plan, and he's probably going to adjust the action plan as a consequence of some of the other things that I have talked about. But I gave him some additional guidance after the first rapid reading of this, and being Ken Hum, he has already completed that task within about an hour. So what kind of guidance as a friend or a coach would you have given him? Pause the tape. Well, what I asked him to do was the following. I asked him to think of plan, prepare, execute, assess. And I asked him to think about the things he wanted to sustain, improve, and then act upon. So that's sort of the standard daily, weekly, monthly, annual after action review. That's our AAR process, our after action review process. But I also asked him to group his findings, group his actions into 4 buckets. And I'm trying to remember what those buckets were. Yeah, organize into 4 categories of actionable items: mind, body, spirit, and technique. And then make sure you do a sustain and improve in your action plan for plan, prepare, execute, assess. So mind, body, spirit, and technique. So that's mind, body, emotion, maybe, and technique. Mind, body, spirit, and technique. I kind of like that. Mind, body, spirit, technique. And so all of those because we're going to see that whole mind space, trickling down onto these things, these activities. These are like techniques, but they are informed by mind, body, and spirit. And remember, I am not my mind, my body, and my emotions. What's left is this base of technique. All right, so let's see what he's got here. Part 2. Oh, yeah, you always exceed expectations. They're no longer, I no longer have expectations because I know you always exceed them. Look how beautiful this is. God dang. Is that ever sweet? This is a new standard, guys. Mind, body, spirit. I like that better than emotions because emotions somehow have a negative rep, but spirit and technique. Ken, let me ask you that if you're still listening. Is that all right? How'd that feel? Like a natural, complete thing? that leads you to contentment, because you feel already that you've encompassed all of those things. And then from that comes patience, which leads to good work, easy work, which is Wu Wei, effortless action. Whoosh. Let's see. So, yeah, I like this. Adding a little bit of spirit to the plan. I'd like you to think about a spirit element of this. That when you are content and patient, that the work that you do is a reinforcement. Good work reinforces your spirit. That's how you're building up your positive bank account. So let's add some respect, joy, and peace in the hard work of doing the work. And then it's not so hard. It's just doing the work, which is building the spirit, which gives you the energy to do all these things. So by doing that, you're actually getting stronger. You don't come out of this exhausted. You come out of this thing refreshed from having done the work. I would like to, yeah, that's just what I was going to say. You got to get on the front end of this with we got to get some red in there. So that I'm waiting to see some reds. I'm already imagining a place in which you're getting into the zero state as a physical body manifestation of prepared to execute. Breathe. Empty hands. Fish. And toss the fish into the bucket. Yeah. Quiet contentment from having assessed properly. There's a physical feeling. Keep going. Let's go. Let it rain when you're walking. Put a little bell and a timer. It's that Pomodoro technique. Ring a bell. Yep. That's your key right there, man. Enjoy the herd, even the ones you don't trade. Just relax and enjoy the herd, because that's where your slack comes from. Because right now, these might be the things that are really working over here, and you think, well, I don't need those over there. But when that market moves over to here and you don't have anything to watch and you keep trying to force the ones that were working, you need to have 20% of the herd is giving you 80% of the gains, but the other 80 are just foraging and getting fat and enjoy them. And then when the lens moves from here to there, you've already got them under observation and know where they are. That's what monitoring and stalking is. You stalk them when the lens shifts over to them. So the number that you're actually actively trading, but remember there's a rest of the herd that you got to monitor. Identify the pattern, pull the trigger. Yep, figure it out. Yep. You're going to probably end up doing some, like a teaching assistant in the hybrid course next year. You and probably, 2 or 3 other folks, a little circle of accountability and excellence, like little lab assistant, lab work. your graduate assistant. So you're in great shape here, Ken. Yeah. And now this monitoring and monitoring and standardizing your template. Yeah. All right, that looks good. I think you're on it, man. That looks like a pretty personalized. I don't disagree with any of that. Boy, that looks good to me. It really does. Oh, man, there you are. You're reading my mind, dude. The only thing that's different in mine is yeah, the only thing different is I usually put this one right here because I can see the ones that I'm looking at and go right here. Here's the other thing I would do is I would get rid of the extra name because look at all the wasted space in there. Like, you know what PLTR is. You don't need to know his full name. You just got his nickname. You can get twice as many in that stack if you eliminate the name. And do you really need figure out how much of that you actually need for all the green stuff. The only one I have on there, well, you've seen my chart. What I have, let me call that up. I just want to show you just as a difference, just to consider. Wait a minute, I have it right in here. Just as a point of comparison, I have the price, just the percent change. That's the only thing I need to be able to distinguish between them. And I kind of highlight the S&P. So, and then as far as monitoring on multiple time frames, I want you to notice that so I have really three different the fractal time frames here. The only ones I even care about are monthly spring and monthly summer, because I want to get well started, because I think that a spring could lead to a summer. So if this thing's came down in here, I'm not even interested in them on the long-term one. But when it comes into monthly spring, then I'm going to get 2 scoops monthly summer, and that's that long-term time horizon. So I want to know the ones, and I really love monthly summer, and I'm very interested in monthly springs. So that's just that. And then on the weekly, I want weekly spring and weekly summer, because those are my 2 long-term, or my intermediate term, if you will, the things that I favor. And it's the same thing. Weekly spring into weekly summer, and then off it goes. And that really takes care of my core. And then this actually takes care of my swing. Now I'm interested in daily winter, daily spring, daily summer, daily fall. So you could imagine if this was tiered, you could see monthly spring, monthly summer, weekly spring, weekly summer, and then on the daily, it could be winter, spring, summer, fall. So at any given time, something could be in one of those categories. So those are the different categories that I'm broadly interested in. So I get all of that on my daily chart, and the ones where I'm stalking and so I'm monitoring all three of my time frames all the time, every day. And then this just tells me which category or condition they're in. So if I'm looking at silver, dude, this one is daily winter, red, but longer term, monthly summer. Why? Because that thing actually went way up and now has pulled way, way back. So the days of fun in the sun are long over because of this daily winter. But that tells me now it may be ready to make this recovery run. So I can tell just by that, I see everything I need to see for all three different time categories just by looking at a very strict set of indicators, very concise, almost laconic or Spartan in its simplicity. Okay. So as you think about your dashboard and simplifying the cognitive effort of switching between time frames and monitoring, that's sort of the thing I would invite you to think about. You know, and I'm 63, so I don't have all that much energy anymore. I can't be running around like a young man. So those are some things that I'd ask you to look at on the stack. Yeah. Yep, there you are. That gives you your fractal look right away. And I just want to highlight the importance of, you know, when you go from the day trade down to the intraday, just the importance of that little price level here. When it takes out that other high, so here's your yellow zone. When this thing just acts like a lid on this, like it couldn't break out here, and so it came all halfway down. It came all the way to the other Z3 as part of this, but then failure to fail further. So that when it does finally break out, now all the rest of it is up, and that's this whole piece. Right there, right freaking there, and right here. That's the one you got to kill. Oh, yeah. Oh, you got it. Dang it. All right. Okay. I see that. I didn't see the little green dots in there, man. I was going to yell at you. That's your SSC and kata 2. That's SSC plus SFC equals heavenly glory. And there's your managerial exit. Bang. Bang, right there. And there's a win in there too. All right, bud, that's pretty good on a Thanksgiving. That's a good hour and 45 minutes of work. Yeah, I only got one question. What are you going to do now? Oh, you tell me later. You got your action plan. We're looking forward to a month from now. Let me know how it goes. Take at least 24 hours and digest this. Write down your immediate feelings and responses. And then after you've done that, then go back through in a couple days. After you're content, then as soon as you feel a little hungry, then take your notes from this and then listen to it one more time and make sure you got that second layer of detail on it. Okay? And we'll take it from there. So just, man, just in awe of your work. Just you did that just exactly right. And I want to go back to the thing that I said first. at the end of the day, when all is said and done, 30 execution are, however you're feeling about that trading when you first went in. I hopefully have changed your mind on some of that, or you've changed your mind on some of the different reframings and reprocessings. Right? That's the essence of true storytelling, by the way. The essence of true storytelling is this. Something like roots, branches, those are the structures. Leaves, those are the manifestations of individual case studies. And then the seeds of that next generation that fall to the ground, and then the little squirrels, little bushy. He carries those little seeds, gets chased by dogs, and he has a little cachet, and then that creates new trees elsewhere. The true story that comes out of your heart, and that really is what it was, that's raw material. That's one of those leaves and seed. That leaf is the true story you can finally tell. Or maybe it's the fruit. Yeah, I guess the leaf. The pine cone is the seed. And then what comes out of that seed is all the potential of the raw material from your story. It could go this way, this way, this way, this way, and into the next story. So you start propagating these stories because you come back and rework it, and raw material of all the leaves that you put into a nice little pile and reworked. And just changing a few words and a couple other possibilities, a different lens, a different reframing, motivated by truth and energy and all that. And then your story evolves and adapts as on the basis of the restorying and the replot and the reinvestigation. So the words that we use allow us to shape this into the next new story. We can adjust our reality consists of all the stuff that came from our roots, and then it grows out of the ground through the actions that we take, and then the results. And this whole thing that we make sense out of, how do we shape that going forward? It's the words, and then the actions we take on the basis of those words. You change your words, you change your actions. And then slowly, this thing, when you're working on the margin, these things up in here, that's changing. Remember, each of these piles of stories and the everything that you are is being changed on that cutting edge, that dynamic edge. So when we draw our little walking man here in this little circle of Wu Wei, the change is happening here as you're making that move, and you're leaving behind some of the old stories and acknowledging in the path that you left, but you're in this living story, and the new stories are on that cutting edge, and you're reworking it on the basis of the words, and the stories are still true, but the words allow you to reshape that experience so that you can become what you intend on the basis of your heart. And you just integrate your gut and your head, and now you know how to do that with your hands, and your feet can walk that path. You integrate all that stuff. That's that heartfelt action, that heart mind. The heart mind, that's the ox. The 10 ox herding stories. There's a really nice series on YouTube by a nice young Australian monk, and she does a really nice job with a accompaniment on flute and bowl, and each one of them is about 30 to 40 minutes, which should be about 2 to 3 miles at a comfortable pace. 10-minute miles or 12-minute mile or a 15-minute mile. Yeah, that's what you want to get to. 12 to 15-minute mile is comfortable. 15-minute mile is 4 miles per hour. So you get a nice little walk in and listen to one of those and pause and reflect. I'm going to go out and get another one, chapter 4 tonight. Anyway, that's everything I got for you, Ken. Thank you so much for your gift of this. And I'll send you a link to that little series. It's pretty good. All right, bud, take good care. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Really appreciate your listening in. And we're going to get after this thing tomorrow. And off we go. I'll get this published and posted in a little bit. So have a great rest of the night. I got to go out and get a few more steps in. I think I'm at 10 right now. I got to go get another 10. So, yeah, it's 10 o'clock. There's just enough time to get 10,000 steps. All right, take care, guys. See you tomorrow.